Hello, welcome to a little session here with the people of 1381. I'm Adrian Bell, the PI of the project, and I'm joined here by my colleague. She's going to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Helen Killick, and I'm one of the research assistants on the project, and I'm based at the University of Reading.
So today we're going to talk about petitions and how we use them in our research. So I think it's best to start off, Helen, and tell us what a petition is.
Yeah, sure. So I guess, everyone thinks they might know what a petition is, and you might have signed one or maybe even organised one, but they're slightly different in the medieval period. They're not something that has kind of a list of signatories attached. They are written requests from individuals or groups to a higher authority with the underlying principle, based on the underlying principle that the reigning monarch derived their authority from God, as he was divinely appointed, and therefore was the kind of conduit for God's justice and grace. As I said, they didn't have a list of signatures attached. Instead, the medieval petitioner supported their case in different ways. For instance, by stating that their request was for the common good and other kind of language of that nature. And they're written to the king, but also other sources of spiritual authority, such as the lords in Parliament and also the Pope, the papal court.
I suppose that the concept seemed strange, the idea that they're appointed by God the King, but recently, I'm going off topic, but recently King Charles was appointed by his divine authority of God and was anointed with the holy oil. So since I think that's been brought to anyone who watched the coronation will have seen that in practice. So we're not that much different to the medieval understanding of kings and queens.
Yeah, but they were a bit more literal about it.
Well, you think. Right, anyway, why did they use petitions? What's the point of it for them?
I guess to answer that, you kind of have to look a bit about the kinds of people who use petitions, and most of those we do find are the higher end of the social spectrum, so landholders and clergy and kind of rich merchants and things like that. But it was a legal strategy open to everybody. And people from all walks of life did use petitions, including women and the peasantry. And the reason for that is because petitions were a way of making something happen without resorting to a lawsuit. So legal process at the local level could be quite corrupt at this time and open to influence from powerful interest groups. So the petition was a way for ordinary people to obtain direct access to royal justice. And many were actually written to complain about the abuse of power by corrupt officials. So you can kind of see that process in action.
And how have we used it? Why are they important for the people of 1381 project?
Well, they're a really important source for us in several ways. So they can provide further evidence of actually what happened in those cases where we have a petitioner who's complaining that they suffered at the hands of the rebels, or in other ways as a result of the rising, and then asking the king to provide a remedy for that. And they can also provide a record of kind of like the aftermath of the rising, in that there are people who complain that they were falsely accused, or that their lands were wrongfully confiscated and they're trying to get them back. Just to discuss a interesting example, there's a petition from a man called John Cheney, who was parson of the church of a place called Ugborough in Devon, who complained that on 18th of June 1381, a man called William Haysend came with a gang to his parsonage to kill and behead him and burn down his house. And he was only saved by his neighbours kind of getting together and helping him. And this petition is interesting for several reasons. So it shows that something did happen in Devon, because we don't have very many documents relating to 1381 in Devon. And also Cheney says that Haysend's still hanging about, and he's threatening him and preventing him from returning to his parsonage. So it's showing, sort of the aftermath of the rebellion and kind of things still going on. And also he says specifically that he can't follow the normal legal procedure and seek redress through the common law because of what he terms Haysend's great maintenance in the region. So in other words, this guy has lots of power and influence which would prevent Cheney from obtaining justice. So this is a good example of what I was just talking about, in the way that kind of petitions are used by ordinary people in order to, kind of get their kind of wrongs righted in a way outside of the legal system.
And I think if people want to look at this further, in the talk I did with Helen Lacey, I think she uses a petition in an illustration of pardons.
That's right, yeah. So that's one of the other, ways that they document 1381, is that we have petitions for pardon for people who'd committed crimes during the Rising. And Helen shows an example of the document, which, as you can see, is quite brief, and they're quite often little kind of scrappy documents. They wouldn't have cost that much money to get written up, and so they were quite, they were quite a kind of easily obtainable kind of means of getting justice.
So I think that's really illuminating on how our medieval forebears access justice. Thank you very much.